Hey, what's up everyone? Matt Montanez here, finally with another video. I know it's been a long time. I've just been really busy, right? I've been working on the app, Audio Coach, and if you haven't got that app yet, please go get it. It's free to download in the Apple iOS store and also the Google Play Store for Android. Um, it's very awesome. We're coming out with our new 2.0 update soon, and it's going to have mixing tips, production tips. There's going to be contests and challenges, a lot of cool stuff. It's going to be coming out soon, so go grab that app now. It's really, really dope. It'll help you in and out of the studio, and there's also ear training in there and a bunch of other useful tools. So go grab that bad boy. I've been busy with music, of course, mixing and mastering and all that. And that's why I decided to do this video. I really love this record. This record is actually by Jackie's Boy, a Grammy-winning songwriter, a super dope artist. It's an incredible song. I love it. So I decided to do a video on this. Produced by a buddy of mine. He goes by Jukebawks, and he did a great job in producing it. Actually kept it real small and neat. As you can tell, there's only about 10 tracks, 11 actually, and I decided to take one out. And I'll explain that why in the video, why I pulled it out, and what I did to compensate for that. Then for the vocals, there's not many vocals. You can see it comes down to about 23 tracks after that. And we just got a nice little thick layer here in the hook. And you just got my auxiliaries and effects and stuff. And the whole session came out to 54 tracks. So it's a small session. Very, very tiny session. In this video, I'm going to go in very thorough on what I did. Or I'm going to try to do it be as thorough as I can without going like forever talking. To get started here, let me just go through my template. I bring it in real quick. The way I color code everything is all instruments are yellow, all vocals are the stock blue. This weird green teal color is my auxiliaries. My master is this kind of red color, then black red color is, well actually black red color is my master, my mix bus is red, print is just blue, and then for my effects are all this purple color. I don't go real crazy in depth like, oh, drums are yellow and guitars are red and this is brown. There's too many colors. I'm actually colorblind as it is, so I just go to like bright color to dark color so I can actually just see that there's a difference in the shade, and it works for me. So that's how I do it, and it looks good. And then I just know how everything is. I always just go pretty much in this I guess you can say template style. In my template, I bring in these aux tracks. That's how I organize my drums. So it'll go bass, kicks, snares, toms, overheads, perk, guitars, keys, horns, down to vocals there. So that's just the way I organize everything. As you can see, there's bass, kicks, snares, percussion, and then keys and synths, and then vocals. And then the vocals go in lead vocals, harmonies, and backgrounds. And then I finally upgraded to Pro Tools 2018, which is great. But before, they didn't have plugin recalls, which I actually find out I hate the plugins recall feature. It's just in the way. Whenever I try to send stuff, I used to just go down one to track and then send it to wherever I need to go. Now I always go into this recalls thing, and it feels like it slows me down. It throws me off for a second. So I'm still trying to get used to that. But then I've always had my chains ready to go. Like I had this Fatso chain. And then I got this plugin. I bought this plugin and I've been using it since. Really dope. Fatso distressor emulation. And then I would have like a pull tech in here and things like that. And it just has my plugins preset, so I don't need to go like, okay, I want the H delay, pull up the H delay, and then come here, pull up a freaking preset. That was taking too long, so I just bring them up in my template right away. Same thing with like the 550A. Instead of me going here and then going through presets and stuff, it'll bring in the way I like my settings right away. So yeah, I just bring them in like that and I just route them through or whatever I need to get started. Finally, to get started, I'm gonna play a little bit of the record so you can hear it, and then I'm gonna talk about it a little bit more.
Baby, let me turn all of the lights down, 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 down. Got a chef so we can cook it for you right now. No, 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 no.
So that's the whole intro, the beginning right there, real smooth sounding and stuff. And this is just the mix, by the way, right now that we're listening to. We're not listening to the master. As you can see, all my plugins are bypassed. But a couple plugins I do like to keep in while I mix, this meter here, and then this meter here. For this purposes, there's no reason to keep them up. So when I first opened the session, anything, listened to it a little bit, then I slapped my favorite plugin, as you guys all should know. It is the SSL channel on everything. As you can see, it goes all the way down in slot 3. And that's my favorite plugin. Yeah. Then slot 2 usually is auto tune, As you can see, I just froze it, and it's really just safe processing power for this video. And then slot 1 usually goes to Melodyne or something similar to that taste, where I need to chop up vocals or do anything fancy. Then after that, that's where I start adding extra stuff that I use. I routed everything to where it needs to go: bass, kick, snares. They just pretty much go to the auxiliaries here, and they all are actually stacked with the NLS. I actually like the sound of it, that little harmonics it gives, and then of course it has the bus one there, and it sounds really good. I like it. I found out though that I can't use it on every song. Keep that in mind. There's times where I do need to bypass it, because once you start getting in super bass heavy stuff, like this one only has one 808, which is great, but if you have like a live bass and an 808 or a sub bass, it actually gives it like a wobbly sound, and it's really, really weird. And once you snap that bad boy off, then you're good to go. Same thing like with the J37, but this session it was able to work, and I enjoyed the sound, so I kept it here at spike, and I just went with it. Here's the kalimba. This is the first instrument you go. So when I pull up the session, I usually just go from left to right, like if I'm reading a book. And
Baby, let me turn all of the lights down.
it's just the kalimba with vocals. So it's like, all right, let's get that to sound really good. I don't go over here and try to mix this whole section. To me, it just feels really overwhelming, and it'll drive me nuts. So I just go to the left to right and just let the track build up itself and start mixing the instrument. So I went to the kalimba, highlighted it just like that, looped it, popped up the EQ, and then I used the S1 imager as well. And then I just EQ'd it to my taste. I'm going to bypass my plugins, and then I'll add them back in so you can hear that kalimba.
Baby, let me turn all of the lights down. Down, 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 down. Got a chef so we can cook it for you right now. No, 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 no. Baby, there's a million good reasons. Baby, let me turn all of the lights down. Down, 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 down. Got a chef so we can cook it.
And as you hear, it's really thin, bright kalimba without my plugins, without the EQ. I wanted it more warm. I wanted a real warm, comfortable taste. And I don't know if it was because the song called Comfort, but I wanted it as a comfortable taste, so I went more warm. And let me solo that bad boy and do that again. Here's without the plugins. Or actually, I'll do with the plugins and without the plugins here. And you lose a lot of that body that this instrument had. This is the EQ settings I did, just, about 5 dB boost here, bell shape, and then, 4 dB boost here, a little wider bell. And then I pulled out some of the mids, and then I boosted the highs a little bit and rolled off lows and highs. Threw a little compression just so it sits tight where it needs to be. And then the S1 imager just balanced it out a little bit, because as you can hear with that reverb sound, it leans a little to the right. And it just felt real weird to me. So I threw the S1 imager in there just to balance it all out, the whole spectrum, the sound field of it. So now you can hear it throw it a little bit to the left there. And I like that. It just sounded great to do that. So I went with it. And then I didn't touch the vocals yet. I left the vocals alone, so I just skipped over that and I went to the next few instruments that came in. So I just looped this section. This section here, we got introduced with the kick drum. Great sounding kick, by the way. And we also got introduced to the Rhodes. So I tackled the kick drum first.
Feet hurt in them heels, girl, yeah, I know. 'Cause you been dancing on.
For this kick drum, I just highlighted like a small section like that. Let me bypass that.
Feet hurt in them heels, girl, yeah, I know. 'Cause you been dancing all night and you're thinking about heading home. Feet hurt in them heels, girl, yeah, I know. 'Cause you been.
And I wanted it to really punch through, and it's really because I was like, okay, I have an 808 coming, so I can't have too much low end. And not just that, is I don't want it crowding the Rhodes too much. So what I did is I brought it in, I rolled off some low end. And as you can see, that's all I did. And then I brought in the Sheps. And I like the Sheps because the Sheps has a unique sound to it. Like when you just slap it on stuff, it changes the sound right away if you push it the right way. And that's what I loved about it, because I remember hearing Andrew Sheps talk about it at NAMM. He talks about it in his other videos too. And he talks about how they emulated like the actual preamps. So you actually get the full 1073 sound. I slapped it on and I liked what it did. And let me solo the kick so you can hear it with it. And then I'll turn it off. And it's probably very hard to hear with this whole YouTube conversion and stuff, but it adds just a little more harmonic distortion in the mids there where it's like poking through just a hair more. And then I just slapped on the lo-fi and only put 0.3 distortion on it. And then you can just really hear the difference from there. It's night and day. And I was like, okay, that sounds great. So when the sub bass is going to come in, and then I'll tweak as necessary. But I liked where it sat because it wasn't crowding the Rhodes from there. As you can tell now, when my plugins are off, it's underneath the Rhodes, and it's just weird sounding. But now with the plugins back in there, it gave it its own space, and that's what was nice about it. So now to the Rhodes. The Rhodes was nothing special. I didn't do anything special. I didn't roll anything off, as you can tell. Threw a little tiny bit of compression, 2.5 there, and then I boosted some highs and a little bit of these midsection there. And I pulled off just some muddiness that I didn't like, and it was about 2 dB. And as you can tell, it's real dark now. So yeah, I just really wanted it to sound a little bigger, and that's all this plugin was doing here. It was making it sound just a hair bigger, and it just makes it sound really, really nice. From there, we just went here, and this is pretty much where everything gets introduced. You get your snare, you get your 808, you get the shaker, you know, you get your hats come into play, and then of course the synths. I went up to the 808, highlighted, and I just highlighted this section here, and I made sure it sat nice and played nice with the kick.
Baby, take off them shoes. The way you whine is so wonderful.
And this wasn't too hard what I did here. Basically, I just brought up my SSL as always, and I just raised it up. As you can see, it's not sitting at 0. I raised it up some. I brought in this guy to add a little distortion, and it actually changes the entire tone of the 808. And I thought it just sounded cool. I liked it just sounding better that way versus this way.
The way you whine is so wonderful. Come to my home, let's get.
And it was really because I couldn't hear it anymore once all the music came in. It was probably going to just have to be like, yeah, to have a super sub or something. And I didn't want that. And then this last plugin is just a gate expander, which the kick pushes through.
Baby, take off them shoes. The way you whine is so wonderful. Come to my home, let's get comfortable.
And that was it. And it just made it sit nice, and they played nice together, and it worked. So I was happy with that. And then for the snare pretty much gets the same treatment as the kick, at least in this sense. I just compressed a little bit.
Baby, take off them shoes.
And then I added this bad boy, and I just used some EQ here. A little top end, a little bit of the mids, and then just a little low end. And then, of course, just 1.3 this time of distortion there.
Baby, take off them shoes. The way you whine is so wonderful. Come to my home, let's get comfortable. Promise I won't be rude.
And I wanted it just a lot brighter snare, and that's because we have the Rhodes, which sounds real warm and comfortable. Then we also have the kalimba, which I made sound more warm and comfortable. And then, of course, the 808. So the snare, I just wanted it brighter overall. And that was just a personal taste of mine that I decided to do creatively. Not creatively, creatively. And then went down to the shaker, and the shaker is nothing special. I pulled off some highs, some mids, and then just rolled off the lows. It's a little bit of compression, but it's actually not much.
Baby,
as you can tell, it doesn't even mark anything.
Baby, take off them shoes. The way you whine is so wonderful.
So that's what I did there for that. And then, of course, I panned the shaker, or what's the hat? The hi-hats over to the right a little bit. For me as an engineer, and I actually wrote this on Twitter the other day, it's like, do all musicians pan as a drummer's perspective, because me as an engineer, I'm not a musician, but I always pan from the engineer's perspective, from the fans perspective. But what do you guys do? Go ahead and drop a comment below and let me know about that one. Just curious, on how everybody's panning. So I pan from the engineer's perspective, so hi-hats go to the right instead of the left.
Oh, baby, take off them shoes.
This plugin here is the Mondo mod, and all it does is just like an auto pan or like Pan Man and stuff like that. I just used the Waves one, and it worked out for this. I only bring that in way over here in, I believe it's this section here. And it just comes in one spot just to add a little movement to the hats, and it works out really, really well. And here's that synth I was talking about. So we got this synth, and he gave me two of them. He gave me the left side and the right side. So one was pan left, one was pan right. I didn't like how it sounded together. And I'll bring it up, and I'll solo them both. And as you can tell right now, once I bypassed my plugins that added the width, pretty much I'm thinking what he ended up doing was just copying it, and it does say copy. So it didn't change the characteristics. All it did was make it louder, and it just didn't work for me. I really didn't need the extra loudness. If I did want any loudness, I would just boost it here, which, the little highs there and stuff makes it sound louder. And then I slapped on, of course, the little micro shift by Soundtoys. Love it. It's one of my favorites by Soundtoys. Behind Alter Boy. Alter Boy is the absolute best plugin they have ever made. And then I just threw on this BF76, which is an 1176. I just tossed in the BF76 just because, well, it was the first one in reach when I went here, Dynamics, and it's like, oh, it's right there. Boom. And that was the one I grabbed.
You want to, baby, take off.
And it just gave it that width, enough width that I wanted, where it kept it kind of in the center, a little off center, but it left room for the vocals. So that's what those plugins did. The compression, I just like the way it made it sound.
You want to, baby.
And as you can tell, once I enabled it, it sounded wider. So I'll do that again. I'll leave it on, and then I'll take it off. Real wide. And it's wide, but it's still not wide enough. So yeah, the compressor was necessary there. And then we got this high synth here, which is really cool.
The way you whine is so wonderful. Come to my promise I.
And all it is just something to be in the background. And as you can see, I brought it down quite a bit. I just added little highs, pulled out some mid lows right there, and that was it. Then for the low synth, there's a low synth in here. High synth, I always pan to the right. Low synth, I usually pan to the left, and that's what I did here. And then I just pretty much do the opposite of what I did with the high synth. As you can see, it's pan to the left. This one's pan to the right. Awesome, beautiful, sounds great. So now let's go down to these auxiliaries real quick so I can show you what's going to what. So I got the kicks and snares, and then I have these chains that are set up. I don't remember if I used the fatso. I did. So I went through the fatso and then just gave the kicks and snares a little more punch, and it goes through that distressor emulation there. And then I threw a little reverb on the snare, and I just felt like it needed it. It made it so it had like a tail at the end. So I make sure it finishes right before it comes into the next set. And that was the whole goal for that, and it sounded great. And it's probably not 100% perfect, but it worked out. My percussion is just going to the affects, and it's just going to a little bit into the affects, which is this bad boy. And that was pretty much it for the sends for the instruments. Let's go down to these vocals now. Vocals, I just put some auto tune on. I have them frozen right now, but you know, I'll even unfreeze it so you can see it. Let's see, how do I unfreeze? And unfreeze all. Basically, all I did was bring auto-tune on, set the key, and leave it as default. I don't do anything fancy with the auto-tune. I leave it as default, and it's pretty much just setting the key. When you have a good singer, it shouldn't give you that auto-tune sound. It should just keep everything tight, like this.
Baby, let me turn all of the lights down. Down, 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 down.
Can't even hear it. And that's what I did for all the vocals. It all just has, just to keep things tight, real tight. For the vocals here, I went in the vocals, roll off some lows, hair of compression, little highs, pulled out some of that, and added a little lows. I felt like the lows needed a little more warmth. Instead of using an actual pull tech and stuff, I decided to just use the onboard EQ right here with the E channel. And then I just pulled off some of the insert.
Baby, let me turn all of the lights down. Down, 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 down.
And then of course, you guys know, I just always set it as factory default and then just set the threshold.
Baby, let me turn all of the lights down. Down, 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 down. Got a chef so we can cook it for.
And once I pull off that EQ, you can really hear it gets real bright, the vocal. It's not warm like how I wanted it to sit, so.
Baby, let me turn all of the lights down. Down, 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 down. Got a chef so we can cook it for you right now. No, no.
And so yeah, I just want to sit real warm and comfortable, and that's what was the whole goal there. If I go into my automation here, as you can see, I did very little automation actually on this track, and it's because when you look at it, everything's pretty even. I didn't need to go crazy in, which I've done before, and it takes time, but it's worth it to add some feeling back. So yeah, that was my EQ for the vocals right there, at least for this lead vocal.
Do just what you want to. Baby, take off them shows.
So everything I did for the slow one was very minimal. Pulled off some highs, some of the low end I rolled off, and then I just pulled off the muddy section really, and then just boosted just a hair more. It made it sound nice together.
Do just what you want to. Baby, take off them shows. The way you whine is so wonderful. Come to my home.
So as soon as I bypass it, you'll hear that it gets buried underneath the lead a little too much. So the EQ adjustments was for this was so it'll actually poke through with the lead vocal.
Do just what you want to. Baby, take off them shows. The way you whine is so wonderful. Come to my home.
And it sounds really good right there. And then we just got all the backgrounds, which is just.
Baby, take off them shows. The way you whine is so wonderful. Come to my home, let's get comfortable. Promise I.
And the cool thing about this, with these backgrounds, and especially with all the backgrounds, how I treat them, is I just go hard left, hard right. And I learned that from a buddy of mine, C minor. He's all like, yeah, dude, we just go hard left, hard right, especially in pop music. You just want to go hard left, hard right. Unless you're doing anything crazy fancy, then you could do 75, 64, whatever you're going to do. But if you're not, then just hard left, hard right for everything. And that's exactly what I did here.
Want to, baby, take off them shows. Wonderful, comfortable road. Nice wine and some nice food. The way you grind is remarkable. Come to my home, let's get comfortable.
And I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna mute them and then unmute them so you can check it out.
Want to, baby, take off them shows. The way you whine is so wonderful. Come to my home, let's get comfortable. Promise I won't be a road.
So yeah, it really does make a big difference, those, even though they're tucked underneath pretty good. But they sit real nice, and it's just small EQ adjustments, so barely anything. We got our ad-libs here, and then we got a couple more backgrounds. And the ad-libs, I didn't do anything special, same thing, just small compression and a little RDSer.
Oh, no, no, no. Tell them that you're dealing with a king now. No, 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 no.
And then that one I just sent it over to the 550A, and that's actually goes to my B one, and that's usually my preset for backgrounds, and it's really just using the backing Vox preset.
No, 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 no. This is a moment for life.
It really pokes through, it makes ad libs come out, and we really wanted it because of this ending section here.
And let's go. We can do just what you want to. Baby, take off them shoes. The way you whine is so wonderful. Come to my home, let's get comfortable. Promise I won't be.
And it just comes out really, really good, nice and neat there. So that was the goal for that. And let's see, let's come here. And these are just some background guys. Same thing, small EQ. And then I just did a transistor effect here for the second one for that layer. And then we just panned them left and right. And then it just has a little delay on it.
Cause you been dancing all night and you're thinking about heading home. But the way your body moves, there's something better that you should know.
So it just has a little delay. And then you see these outputs here for like all my backgrounds. These are all going to like an LA2A, and it's pretty much just to add a little more compression just to keep everything tight.
Baby, there's a million. Oh, baby, take off them shoes.
And that's all that's going to. Then they just go up here into my vocal chains, which is going into my 1176 to squash stuff, my effects, a little reverb, and then I got some width in there. Oh, and I got this guy here. It's called, I just labeled it as whispers because it's a little effect I did.
Baby, let me turn all of the lights down. Down, 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 down. Gotta shift so we.
And if you listen closely, you can hear these little whispers. They're like a little sparkle in the back on the sides of your ears. They pan left and right.
Down, down, down. Got a chef so we can cook it for you right now. No, 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 no. Baby, there's a million good reasons that I love to cater to you.
Yeah, so it's just a cool little trick. I'm actually not going to show it in this video on what I did to create that, but maybe in a future video, just let me know if you want me to show you that, and I'll definitely show you that one. That one just going to take a little too much time, and I want to get to this master here. So for this master here, let me just bypass all this stuff in the mix. Pretty much I printed it out because everything's getting sent into my aux tracks, and my aux tracks go to this bus. Oh, I didn't explain my bus. Did I? No, I didn't. Everything goes into this bus here, and in this bus, of course, it has that. Then my SSL comp, the Magic plugin, the Puig Tech. I got a nice J37, and then of course just a limiter, and it's just something I like. I just like the sounds of all these plugins playing with each other. I actually just started not using this J37 though. The last 5 songs I did, I removed this guy, and I like it a lot better now. This was just giving too much crunch. And then the Puig Tech, it's still just to taste now, but I definitely stick with the SSL comp, the NLS, and the L2. And the NLS is only if I'm using the NLS in all the tracks, then I'll keep that bad boy there. And that's pretty much it. Well, this is going to the video capture software. That's what that's for, so you guys can actually hear the mix. So anyways, everything's routed to my mix bus. I usually just send it to the print so then I can print the track so it's comfortful. I print the whole track, as you can see. And then I shoot through this master, so the output of the print goes into the master bus there. So for the first one, it was the NLS. I didn't use this one. It was starting to give a wobbly sound, so I had to pull that bad boy out. And I thought, oh cool, a little more harmonics, that would sound dope, but it didn't. Then I brought in the Puig Tech, and it's because when I printed everything, I definitely came here and I muted that and this and the limiter to print it. And this is just, I have this all in here for while I'm mixing. I like the sound, but I had to pull that out because I needed things more quiet. This stuff really boosted the volume too much, so I pulled it all down to make it quiet. And then I didn't use the NLS, and then I brought in the Puig Tech back to my master EQ setting, and that's the same setting here. So it printed without that stuff, and then I just brought it back in. Then the J37, I didn't use it for the master actually, because I brought in the Ozone 4. And I like Ozone 4, it's the best sounding Ozone. All the other ones I didn't care for, so I had to bring in the old school classic one that I bought a long time ago. I just used the exciter, the dynamics and the stereo imaging for it, and it came out great. And as you can see, I just added a little small adjustments, brought it down a little bit. Same thing here, of the 3 bands, brought it down. And then my stereo imaging, I just use 3 bands, I don't use 4 of them. Just add a width. And then I brought in the great H delay here, which I just went through cycling through presets. And I went here, and I forgot where I went. Maybe I went in hardware. Yeah, I went in hardware, I think, first. I was like, let's hear what these sound like. Clicked the first one and just started cycling through until it gave me something sounding big and something like, I was like, yeah, this sounds tight, exactly what I want. And then I just brought the dry knob down. And then I used the soft clipper, and it was really just to keep things in place. It's pretty much like a limiter. You'll see some gain reduction, and then it'll add saturation though. It's just very, very subtle. As soon as I bypass and enable it, it just makes it sound like everything's a little tighter. I guess you can call it like a little bit of glue. And then I just brought back my limiter, and it's the same exact settings as this one. Oh, well, this was set to 0.3. This one's 0.1, but it's the same exact settings, and it sounds really cool. I didn't use this plugin. This was a Q10 that I was just messing with at the end of the chain there just to check things out. But yeah, that's pretty much the record. That's actually is the record and how I mixed it. And I'm going to drop a link in the description below so you guys can check out the full record on Spotify or whatever and stream it and add it to your playlist. We actually just came out with another one. Well, it's not. We didn't just come out with it. It's been a while now, but we came out with another record called Do You Love Me? And it's super duper dope as well. Check that one out. Add that one to your playlist. I love that record too. Pretty much the same process. I think it was a little smaller. No, it was actually a little bigger, the session. Just a few more vocals and a little more production to it. If you have any questions for my process, or you would like me to show that whisper trick, drop me a comment below. Give me a thumbs up or whatever. You know, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. You can follow Jackie's Boy. His social media is in the description below. You could follow me. My social media is in the description below. Subscribe. Don't forget to check out my other videos. Also, if you want me to explain anything else a little more thoroughly, or I went a little too quick, just let me know and I can explain stuff a little bit better. All right, as always, everyone, keep creating music. Take care.